because most of the stuff in this room is black and white and gray, it's going to be a little bit boring. Therefore, I'm going to push my desk tones a little bit to the yellow, and I'm going to put some blue outside the window, so I'll have a cool tone there that will contrast with the warm tone. The contrast between this gray here and this gray here is quite obvious, right? This you can leave paper white. Around here, you're going to want to do some kind of a tone of gray. The pillars here have a lighter area here and then a darker area in the back, right? So the light's hitting the sides of it. These are backlit, basically. The light's right here, right? See how these boards are darker here on the part that's facing us and lighter on the part that's catching the light there? Then this all is a darker tone of gray. This is catching light here and this is shaded underneath. And then there's this light here again, a little bit complicated, but worth looking at, right? Here I've got a tone that looks a little warmer than this tone here. That's why I did cool down here and warm up here, is because this is painted in a different gray than this is down here. All right, so I'm choosing two markers and I'm not trying to replicate this exactly, but I'm trying to just show a difference between this part of the wall and this part of the wall. Okay, I haven't got any blue sky out there, but I wanted to bring blue in, and then I took these oranges and yellows down in here. So with the desks, I'm getting these really warm tones, so I really can go with yellow out in there. Now I'm not getting a single strong light source, so I'm not seeing this really turn away from the light. If I look right here, I can see very strongly that this part right here is light, and this part right here is turning away from light into the shadow. That's the kind of lighting that I want to have on all of my desks, because that's going to show the perspective. What's happening in here is I'm not really getting the difference between the side of the leg and the front of the leg, right? With these, I can't really tell what's going on there. With this, I really can. So direct light, when it hits, it's going to be lighter here and darker here. So that's what I'm going to try to do as I come into my drawing, so that I'm enhancing my perspective. Take my lighter brown tone. So the lightest I'm going to let any of the browns go is up into this really light yellow, right? So I'm going to take that and I'm going to color all the wood of the desks in with the base coat underneath, and I'm not going to worry about the light so much. Right now I'm just worrying about the color. So I'm going to use this different brown here to say that the tops of the stools are a little bit different. Now here I'm missing some detail, right? I'm coloring as if the detail were in there, and I'm going to come later with my marker or with my micron pen at the end of it, actually outline that or create more of an edge on that. I don't even need to draw around the whole thing. I can just sort of do like that, put a parenthesis on it or something. If I have something like happened here, see I have 3 lines there, I'm going to decide which one I'm going to use. I'm going to color up to it. So if I wanted to color to that darker line out there, then I'd color this tone up to there. And I just ignore the mark that I didn't want to be on there. Here I've made a mistake. Notice that right here in my drawing, I had this line going off and then they were diverging. So these were getting wider and wider as they went up, and I wanted them to be equal. So instead of using this line right here, I'm going to use this line on the inside. I'm going to use this line on the inside instead of this line on the outside. Okay? What that means is I want the top of this desk to be white and the desk behind it to be yellow. So I'm just going to ignore that line right there. And I'm going to color this desk in here, right over top of that line. The stools, I'm going to use my 30 and my 50% to turn them gray. So I'm going to take my 30% first. I'm going to tone those stools into a gray. Here I made a mistake with my marker. I actually want this stool to show over top of that leg. So I'm just taking my gray and I'm wiping out the yellow. I'm actually going to leave the tops of my stools white for right now because I kind of want some contrast as those go around the edge. I may change that when I go into my 50%. Let's see what I think is going to work in there. I know I'm going to turn these things dark. Really no point in doing that with a 30 because it's going to go much darker than that. In fact, I think I'm going to bring my 70 up. Just to get some contrast in here, I want to see a really dark mark in here because that's going to change the way I see my drawing, isn't it? If I don't start going dark at the beginning, I'm going to have to go over it and over it and over it as it comes along here. Here I don't have rulers drawn in, but I'm coming in with my 70% and I'm making them along there. Of course, I'm going to come in probably at the end of my drawing and make them a little sharper where I need contrast or where my marker didn't quite hit the edge of the paper. Okay, I want to get a brown going around this side of the leg, and I think I chose that. Is that a little too dark? Let me see. What's the other one like? I could try this lighter one. I don't think I'm going to see too much happening. So if I put this up here, I'm going to get a darker brown going around the edge. Yeah, maybe that's enough. Maybe I want to do this. So I'm going to see a very clear shadow. This time I'm being careful. This time I'm trying to delineate the difference between this edge of the chair that's going to be catching the light and this edge of the chair that's going to be off in darkness or in shadow. I'm just turning the edges of these boards away from the light. I'm going to shade in the side of that drawer. So you see that turning away from the light in there. So let's say that I get those all done up the way I want them to. But they're not quite right. I'm going to take a pencil. I'm going to test it over here and see what it's going to do. It looks like that's probably a pretty good change from the orange to that brown. Really nice transition because it's like this other brown. Maybe I want to come up here and do a little more work or make a little straighter line down here with this pencil since I have more control with my pencil. And here now I'm seeing something I forgot. So I can turn this away from the light nicely right there. This maybe I want to be more clear about. This edge of the table, I want to turn away from the light. So maybe I'm going to take a 10% gray because I know the tops of these tables are a little bit off-white. I'm going to stroke that across the tops of the tables. I think I'm going to go 50 on the edges because I want it to really show up that I'm turning away from the light there. So I'm going to take the pointed end and I'm going to come along here. I'm going to shade that. I might take this 50% down here to the floor and do a little bit of a stroke out from here away from that window to make these things sort of sit on the floor right here. It could be that I want to turn this edge in gray. Now, if that's the case, I'm not going to put a cool gray on a yellow. I'm going to do a warm gray. So if I came here and I put like an orange down or something there, let's say I went with this on my next try. and it's too bright. I might take my 50% gray, but warm gray this time, and tone that out. So I'm getting a little bit of a gray on this side. I don't really love it. It's kind of turning green, so I like better what happened with my pencil. Of course, I shouldn't be trying this right on my drawing. I should be trying it on my practice drawing that I have over on the side. So I've gridded out the floor here by coming away from vanishing point right and away from vanishing point left. If I wanted to suggest some tiles in here, I'd do it like I do bricks in a fireplace. I wouldn't necessarily go through the room and color every single tile, but I might go in and start to suggest that there are tiles in here. As I get smaller, obviously, I'm going to want to use the point of my pen. But I'm always going to draw either the vanishing point right or vanishing point left. Now, if this grid doesn't quite work, see how I'm changing the line? This line right here, I didn't use. I pulled it over this way because this tile has to be smaller than that tile. So I'm sort of being conscious as I go back that I got to reduce these guys as they go in. So I'm not going to just follow my lines blindly. Now, if I take my 30% warm gray, let's see what happens. Now, before I do that, I'm going to practice what I preach, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put down 30% cool. That's going to represent what my tiles are kind of like, and I'm going to try it out so I don't muck it up on my real drawing. So this seems to be about the same tone, and it's not really showing up. I could correct that with my pen. And make it read like tile. Or I could say, look, I want one to be darker and one to be lighter. So maybe what I want to do is go with my 50% gray in the cool. Is that enough contrast for me? Do I actually want to go up to 70% gray in the cool? That's going to make a real high contrast. Okay, it's up to you. Like, do you want a high contrast down here? Or do you want like a mellow, not a contrast? What happens if I go next to my 30% gray with my 50% warm gray? That's actually something I like better. Okay, so I think I'm going to go darker. I'm going to do 50% warm gray and 30% gray, cool gray. So now what I know I'm doing here is instead of going lighter with the next tile, I'm going to go darker. I'm not going to outline every tile. I'm just going to go in once in a while. And put a stroke and sort of lift my pencil as I move off towards vanishing point. To sort of make that tile floor live with a little more detail. When I do the windows, I definitely want to be moving away from vanishing point left because everything on that wall moves away from vanishing point left. or I can move straight up and down. If I want to have more contrast than that, that's a really light blue. I think it's just fine, but if you wanted to bring in a little more blue into your drawing, why not? I might not do the whole thing. I might just do a streak here and there. A little something, something. Sort of give the impression of something going on out there, but not really doing the whole thing. I'm going to decide on this wall. This wall, I think I said I was going to do in a cool gray. I'm going to stroke up and down on this. So I'm going to start here and pull down away from the ceiling. Put my marker against the desks and pull straight up. I don't have to put the whole wall. I can have light marks like this where it goes from light to dark a little bit. I definitely want to have on this pillar that wall turn away from the light. Sometimes for windows, I like to put a darker stroke down low and let it sort of do an ombre so that the sky gets lighter as it goes up. Just to sort of suggest that there's more light in a higher spot. Sometimes I'll actually do a mark on the window like we do 45-degree strokes like that. You don't have to necessarily do those in pen. What I do sometimes is I'll take a pencil, I can come in here and put streaks on my window in a blue. It would actually enhance that nice blue that I put up there in the sky, and that would sort of look like streaks on the window to suggest glass. I can take my 70 now and go right along there. That's really going to make that edge stand out. Then maybe take my 50 and blend it back. So I'm not getting that harsh line next to that. I did those in 50, then I did a line of 70. Now I'm going and I'm blending with the 50 to get a smoother transition. As I fade out along there.